Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to the first Heart of the Swarm StarCraft II Study episode. I believe this is the first StarCraft II Study episode for Heart of the Swarm, I actually don't know, but today we are going to talk about the Heart of the Swarm beta and more specifically Zerg vs Zerg. Now this should also apply probably right after the release of Heart of the Swarm, because I don't see them patching anything big anymore. So I think right now people are trying to learn strategy once again for Heart of the Swarm, and soon everyone wants to start using some solid build orders and some good ways to approach. So today we are going to take a look at once again EG.IdrA's Zerg vs Zerg. I did a StarCraft II study on this one a little bit ago, like a few weeks ago, and I highly recommend you go watch that one first, because that one continues, or that one goes over the exact build order that EGIdrA uses in Wings of Liberty Zerg vs Zerg. But today we are going to talk about how we can use that build order and continue and change it up a little bit so it becomes viable in Heart of the Swarm. Now first of all, before we take a look at the game in general, first of all we really want to know what kind of changes Zerg has had in the Heart of the Swarm beta. So first of all, there are two new units added. There's the Swarm Host and the Viper. Now those actually don't change anything in the Heart of the Swarm Zerg vs Zerg game. Swarm Hosts are cool, they are a cool unit, but they do not shoot up. So I don't, like, in Zerg vs Zerg, mutalisk versus mutalisk currently is like the way to go. And, you know, Swarm Hosts don't shoot up, so it's really hard to make those viable at this very moment. Of course, this might be proven wrong within a few months' time, but right now, Heart of the Swarm, Swarm Host kind of out of the question. The other unit that has been added is the Viper. The Viper has two cool abilities. One that like pulls enemy units into your army, and the other one is like a cloud that makes sure that the range of that unit is pretty much completely gone. Now, those are the two units that has been added in the Heart of the Swarm beta, as you probably already know, and those aren't really changing Zerg vs Zerg at all. So right now, let's take a look at the other changes. First of all, they changed the Infestor. The Infestor has a missile right now. The range has been upped a little bit, and it just is a little bit different. It's also less strong. So currently in Wings of Liberty there are really two ways to go. You can either open up Mutalisk and then transition into something like Roach Infestor or Roach Hydralisk Infestor or whatever, or you can just go straight up Mutalisk, or you can just go straight up Roach Infestor. Those are pretty much the options that you can go for. But since they buffed the Mutalisk in Heart of the Swarm, like the Hydralisk doesn't really have any way to deal with the Mutalisk right now, and the Infestor is also not nearly as good as it was in Wings of Liberty to deal with the Mutalisk. So right now what you see in Heart of the Swarm is basically only Mutalisk versus Mutalisk. So let's take a look at the game that EGIdrA played versus LowkoTV, I almost forgot his nickname, and we are going to watch this game, see the differences that IdrA makes, and how he adjusts his Wings of Liberty build order to make it suitable in the Heart of the Swarm beta. So here we are in the actual game. As you can see, EGIdrA opened up with a hatchery first, he then followed up by a spawning pool, and then followed up with a gas geyser. Just completely standard and exactly what he also does in Wings of Liberty. Now, there's really not gonna be that many changes early part of the game. He's still going to spend his first 100 gas on getting the Zergling speed out, he's gonna get double queens out early, and he's also still going for the Bailing Nest on the low ground, as well as the Spine Crawler right behind it. Up until this point, it is basically completely 100% the same. He's still getting a pair of Zerglings to like morph into Zerglings or into Bailings if necessary, and he's also going to use a few Zerglings right now just to scout out what his opponent is doing. In this case, he realizes that LowkoTV is kind of doing the same stuff, so he realizes that he can take early gas geysers himself. This is the first big change that he does. He gets the third and fourth gas geyser, or the second and third gas geyser, as well as the fourth gas geyser, a lot earlier, and instead of something like a evolution chamber or whatever, he will actually go straight into a lair as soon as he hits 100 gas or 150 gas. Like, it depends a little bit on how LowkoTV is going, but in general, he's spending his first 100 gas on Zergling speed, he's spending his the second 50 gas on a Bailing Nest, he then adds a lair and double gas geysers, as well as a fourth gas geyser a little bit later. Now, it is really important to note that this will cut into your production quite significantly as far as drones go, right? You really need a lot of drones to support this kind of play. So what is he doing right now at this very point? He's only going to be making units, or only going to be making drones rather. He has a few units out for scouting and for potentially morph them into Banelings if necessary, but right now he's mostly just making as many drones as possible. It's quite an easy build order right now. So here we go, the biggest change that's gonna happen is actually the lair of things. Now, since IdrA won't be able to scout any kind of spire from his opponent, Liquid TLO, he's actually going to have a little bit of a harder time, but he's going to throw down the spire blindly anyway. However, just to make sure, as soon as he hits spire, so he throws down as soon as he hits lair, he throws down a spire. But just to make sure that if it's going to be something like a lot of ground play from Liquid TLO, he's also going to start double evolution chamber and a roach warren a little bit after. So here we go. He's just going to be basically just doing that right now. He's getting the double evolution chamber up after the spire. The spire is already halfway done, and he's also going to take the third base. Now let's talk a little bit about the third base in Zerg vs Zerg. The third base in Muta versus Muta battles is going to be the key to having any kind of advantage whatsoever. Let's take a look at like the math on it. Two base with fully saturated gas geysers will basically, I believe, give you about 450 to 500 gas per minute. Well, obviously, if you have a 5th and 6th gas geyser mining as well, you will get half as much extra. So as long as it's Muta versus Muta battles, you need to take the 5th and 6th gas geyser. This is the first important rule right now in Zerg vs Zerg. Take the 5th and 6th gas geyser because you want to be making as many mutalisks as you possibly can. Now the second rule that you kind of need to follow is that as soon as you hit max saturation, you want to be making as many units as you possibly can. You want to get as few banelings as well because you want to be saving up gas, but you want to be getting units right now. As you can see, both players are just making units, and the reason being is it once again comes back to the mutalisk play. If my opponents get the 5th and 6th gas geyser up, he is even with me. I don't need the extra mineral income from this base whatsoever. So as soon as both players hit max saturation, they 100% of the time, pretty much like all the freaking game long, just as long as the game goes on, they will not get any more drones up. They will just keep making as many mutalisks and then adding more and more Zerglings into the fight if possible. Now, with those units that you are creating, you are also going to defend your own base, but you're also going to try and harass your opponent's third base if necessary. Now, let's say Liquid TLO would not have taken this third base whatsoever. You are still going to be making those units and just take the gas geysers in this base and then add up 8 drones to actually get those gas geysers fully saturated as soon as this hatchery finishes, and you're just going to be producing mutalisk. Now, in this game, Liquid TLO obviously knows about this and he's going to take a third base himself. But honestly, like, if that would not have happened, IdrA would still be making as many units as he possibly can. If you're gonna check the production tab for both players right now, since they're doing pretty much the same thing, both going for a spire, it's really not changing whatsoever. Both players are just making Zerglings right now. So since the spire is about to be finished, the second important rule, if you would say so, is making sure that your opponent is going for mutalisk as well. If your opponent is going for mutalisk, and as soon as you realize this, you can basically stop the upgrades, which is exactly what IdrA is going to be doing in this game. He realizes that Liquid TLO is going to go for mutalisk as well. Right now he realizes so, he saw the spire, and right now he's upgrading those, or he actually cancelled both of the upgrades in the evolution chamber, and he's going to spend all his gas into getting as many mutalisk up as he possibly can. Now, I can make a whole separate video for a bunch of tips on how to control your mutalisk better and how to give you some tips on mutalisk control, but in general, this is the build order right now. You want to be getting as many mutalisk out as you possibly can, you want to be getting as big as a gas economy up, and you don't want to be making too many drones because it can cost you the third base. This is the basic concept right now for Zerg vs Zerg in Heart of the Swarm. I'm not gonna continue this replay any longer because it really doesn't add too much to the game. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is just the very basics right now. Zerg vs Zerg in Heart of the Swarm. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, don't forget to smile and hopefully I will see you again. Bye!